Howdy, howdy. Sioux Devil here, and welcome to a Tomb King's Essential Units Primer. I'm going to do an Essential Units series on the Tomb Kings, probably after I finish up the Lizard Men, which I've already begun, and I want to have another good look at that. But I thought since Tomb Kings are just out, I'd go over a bit of a primer on which units I think are going to show up on the battlefield when you're playing the Dwarfs, and why, and really just do a couple of test battles to demonstrate why I think what I think, and we'll go from there. And then eventually I'll do a full battery of tests against infantry and against their monstrous units and some of their other units. One of the things about Tomb Kings is they're a little bit odd in terms of their faction mechanic, and the Dwarves actually match up extremely well against the Tomb Kings in a lot of ways, but there are some things the Tomb Kings have which will be quite powerful against the Dwarfs. First of all, the Tomb King's infantry is extremely weak across the board. I think that's been universally discussed with just about everyone who's looked at the Tomb Kings, but they're extra weak against the Dwarves, and that's one of the battles I'll show you later. But if we look at their infantry, I mean, they just have skeleton warriors, they're skeleton spearmen, which are anti-large, these Nehakara warriors, which I'll show you. Dwarf warriors I think are 450 or 400, 425, I can't remember. They just die. Let's just go take a look. Dwarf warriors 450. These Nehakara warriors at 575 just lose straight up, no problem. It's because they don't have any armor, and they don't have armor piercing, and they have very weak melee defense, so that plays right into dwarf one-handed units. I'm not going to go over their regiments renowned, but these King Nikesha Scorpio Legion are anti-large. The Tomb Guard, again, they have low armor, okay melee defense, but they lose straight up to Longbeards at 650. So really, I think as the meta advances, the Tomb Kings are probably not going to take a lot of these type of units into the battle, and I'll show you again. I'll just demonstrate why I don't think that's going to be the case. What I can see is I looked at really all their units with armor piercing, anti-infantry, or that sort of thing. Now, first of all, in terms of lords, I think High Queen Khalida looks really good with that poison, armor piercing damage, and on her mount she can get in and out, particularly through dwarven lines, and she has this ability which is not Tomb Strike, Venom Wave, where she does an explosion to clear a spot for her. So I think she's going to be extremely effective against the dwarves who have very dense formations and now have a lot more mass to stop things from going through them. So I think you will likely see a lot of High Queen Khalida. The other lord that people have mentioned as being quite good is Arkin the Black. We'll see. Lords, it might be the cheapest lord, might be something someone takes, or 6 months from now, who knows how things go out. But just looking at the basic right now, I think you can expect High Queen Khalida as being a dangerous lord against the dwarfs, because she can take some spells that do have range, or she can take the Venom Staff, which has 200 meter range, just has 2 shots, but she might be able to target down a really expensive unit like if you brought a regiment of renown like the Peakgate Guard or something like that. But I think she's going to be quite likely. The other thing I think we're going to see a lot of is the Skeleton Warriors. And of course you're not going to see the Skeleton Spearmen because they are anti-large. The Skeleton Warriors will be plenty. They do have silver shields, but that doesn't really matter. They only have 10 armor. These are irrelevant. I think you can think of these almost like zombies for the vampire counts, just to engage the line and hold them and to let their other units go, and to try and take advantage of their mechanic, because they're the Tomb Kings are quite unique in that they have a lot of synergies for a faction, maybe more so than most. I don't know, it appears that way to me, but it's hard to say. But really, one of their core mechanics is going to be to get to their level 4, get all their heals off, and get their summon. And so the Skeleton Warriors will be important to that because they're just fodder. They're just meant to get in the way. Another neat unit, which I think it's hard to say, you might see. We'll have to do some testing against the Kepra Guard here, because they're anti-infantry, they do have regeneration. The one issue they have is they do magical damage. Now, this is not so good against the Dawi. You know, you could very easily put together a Rune Lord, put him on a Anvil of Doom, and, you know, give him this extra 15% magic resistance and Master Rune of Wrath and Rune, and, you know, bada bing, you got a Lord for 1400 that's going to do pretty good. So that would be a risk, but you definitely could see them. The unit you're going to see in every single matchup against the Tomb Kings, unless someone misclicks or makes a mistake or doesn't understand the game, they're just new to the game, is this blessed legion of Fox here. They're just because of that armor sundering, you know, minus 30 armor. They're really, really good. They have very good range at 160, which means as the Dawi, you're going to have something that can counter them. And when I say you're going to have something to counter them, it's not going to be, you know, Quarrelers or Rangers, because they have 160 range. So you're not going to be able to counter fire them very easily, because they're going to be outside of your range if they're focusing down your front line or this type of thing. So that's not usually. It means you're going to either have to have something sent around back to deal with them, which you don't really have those options, or you're going to need a gyrocopter, or most likely you're going to need some sort of artillery. You know, probably the Goblobber would probably be a good pick against them, and maybe even the Grudge Thrower, we'll see, but because it did get a buff in the last patch, so it's more accurate and does a little more explosive damage. So this may be kind of an important pick in that matchup, just for these guys, because they're going to be very, very good. The next unit that we're going to have to do some testing on, we'll see, that may or may not be an issue, is these skeleton chariots. Now, chariots have been an issue for the Dwarfs because they can be so disruptive, but the Dwarfs got a lot more mass in the last patch. But the main reason I really don't think we're going to see these skeleton chariots, though we might, because they are anti-infantry. I mean, they got decent speed and they got a good charge bonus, and they are anti-infantry, is they just don't have any armor. Though I haven't tested everything properly, Slayers will chew these guys up. Like, will absolutely chew them up. Any Quarrelers or anything like that will also chew them up. And because they're large, any of your anti-large stuff, your cannon or even a bolt thrower will do some damage to them. The next unit, which I think is going to be quite popular, is the Ushapti, and that's because they're a lot like Crypt Horrors in that they're very good. They don't have the poison, but they have this anti-infantry, and they have armor piercing. So I think this will be the unit of choice, backed up by these skeleton warriors. Like, you know how the vampire counts, they always had, you know, something in the front line, and they would bring in their Crypt Horrors in behind and kind of make a Death Star where they'd all ball up to try and fight. This will be maybe not exactly or precisely the same, because I think the Tomb Kings do have the ability to play a lot wider than the vampire counts, in my opinion, because they just have better monsters and better options, and they have ranged options, so they're going to play quite a bit different than the vampire counts, I think. But this could be something that you'll see as a standard. Some skeleton warriors with Ushapti supporting, very, very likely. The other really interesting units, and I just love these guys, is the Ushapti with the Great Bow, and I guess the Chosen of the Gods, the Great Bow with anti-infantry. So I think it's quite likely you may see one of these units in a lot of matches, maybe two, and if you do see one, it'll probably be the Chosen of the Gods. I'm gonna have to do some testing on these guys, but you're gonna need an answer. You're going to need an answer for these guys. That's all there is to it. And they have a range of 255. So when you look at, again, your options, I mean, your bolt thrower certainly work. It has a range of 340. The only thing that won't work is your flame cannon. It's a range of 230, but the other potential is a gyrocopter. But I'd be really worried about bringing a gyrocopter, to be honest. You got to be careful because they can certainly be shot down just by any kind of archers. But that might become a choice, artillery or gyros in this matchup, with kind of a risk-reward calculation you got to think about. But I think you're going to see the Shopti with the regular Shopti on the front lines and the Great Bow versions 1 or 2, and maybe the Chosen of the Gods, because they look really good. I'll do some testing and see exactly how good they are. And beyond that, these Necropolis Knights are very interesting. They're big, they're fast, they're armor piercing, and they do poison damage, which is always that's a really good mechanic, just in general, because it just makes the battle go in their favor. They also have shields and 90 armor, so they can take a bit of a beating from Quarlers or Rangers, or even Bugman's Rangers, these types of things. So that's a potential, and they are armor piercing poison, and I thought they were anti-infantry, maybe not. No. But they're slower, but they're faster than any dwarf. 66 speed, so we'll see how those guys play out. I think they might be a poor choice just because of the next unit. This Tomb Scorpion, I have a feeling that this is going to be the bane of the dwarfs, just because they are so mobile. And I don't just mean their speed. Their speed's good at 50. What it is how they can plow through lines. They dig underground and they can go a long ways. And this is a unit where the dwarf mass and increased mass is not going to matter as much. At 1,000, these guys are going to be way more disruptive than a skeleton chariot. And they are anti-infantry, and they cause terror. So and they cause fear. So your dwarf warriors or weaker units, they'll be able to rout them much faster. And they've got a true bonus versus infantry and armor piercing. I think these Tomb Scorpions are going to be something that very, very quickly Tomb Kings players hone in on against the dwarfs, because they will be incredibly disruptive. They'll just be able to dig under your front lines, go straight for your ranged units, your artillery. They will be able to because they're faster than Slayers, they'll just be able to get away from them, and if they get trapped in the front line, they'll be able to get to the other side of the front line. But what it really means is the Tomb Kings armies are probably going to be quite micro-intensive for the Tomb Kings players. Lastly is this Kemrian War Sphinx. Anti-infantry, does have missiles, I think it's armor piercing, yeah, and true bonus versus infantry. I did do some testing, and a single unit of Slayers can take these out, and the Dragonback Slayers can take them out. I just don't, probably not going to see these guys a lot. They cause fear and terror. They are constructs, so they won't, it's hard. These guys got a really hard balance to strike, because they have constructs that won't receive healing from undead healing, and undead that won't receive healing from construct healing. So they got a weird balance to strike. I'm not sure how that's going to play out, but their mechanic, I think, just heals the undead and not the construct, so I could be wrong. But you're probably going to see the occasional Kemrian War Sphinx just because they're super cool. But really, if we pull it down to the units that I think are going to be sort of critical, and the ones that you're going to see the most, it's going to be High Queen Khalida, the Skeleton Warriors, the Blessed Legion of Fox, the Ushapti in the front line, and at least the Chosen of the Gods with the Great Bow, and these Tomb Scorpions. And if I pull up, let's see, load army, let me see, just a test army. I just put together a quick army to see what I would think would be difficult to play against if I was playing against the Tomb Kings. And it's a pretty simple setup. High Queen Khalida on her mount, just this ability here with this explosion, so she can come in, do some damage, and get out. She does really good damage, and she has poison, so she can come in and try and pick off a runesmith and get into the thick of it and then get out, that type of thing. Possibly a necrotech. We'll see how good their healing is, but the thing that I like about the necrotech is you can put them on a skeleton chariot, so they get true anti-infantry, and they give them the healing ability. So this restore, they only get 2 uses of it though, but it replenishes the hit points of a construct, and potentially they could use this elixir of might. Now it's expensive, but in terms of how the games play out, you could, you might send them in with Khalida, because Khalida's quick and they're going to be 74 speed and 66. Pop that on a lord and just burn them down, and that with that plus 26 melee attack and plus 50% weapon damage, even though it is not armor piercing. They have a good amount of armor piercing, but you could see that. And then a simple front line of skeleton warriors, 4 or 5, and really 2 units of Ushapti to back them up, to go in behind, and 2 units of archers with, of course, the blessed Legion of Fox here. One to sunder the armor, the other to help support. These guys in the back, the chosen of the gods, just firing away until they run out of ammo, although they have a lot of ammo. And then 4 tomb scorpions. Now, I know this might look a little weird to have 4 big units like this, but they're only 1,000 gold, and they're anti-infantry, armor piercing, they cause fear and terror, and they are incredibly disruptive. Now, if the player has obviously the player controlling this army would have to have pretty good micro, but then you don't have to worry about cav or anything, and these guys can go anywhere. These tomb scorpions will be able to break through your lines, get to the back, disrupt your artillery or archers, and the beauty of these guys is you can get 2 of these guys to, with their armor piercing, to focus down a Thane or runesmith. You have one of these guys on a lord, even if you have a really good, like even if you're running like Grombrindle or something, these guys start the battle. High Queen Khalida rushes in, explodes the way out of the infantry and starts the attack, and their necrotech can just follow along and pop his ability. So I think this is to me this looks really unpleasant to play against, no matter how I put my army together, and it's all reasonably priced. The only unit that really stands out as something to focus on is this Chosen of the Gods and High Queen Khalida herself. But High Queen Khalida is not going to be so easy. Even if you have like a cannon or a bolt thrower, she's fast. Like, she's gonna juke shots, because 66 is not lightning speed, but she's going to be moving around, and the necrotech is, going to be hard to deal with it when it gets in, and it can plow into your lines with that anti-infantry and do more than just heal. Like, it looks like this necrotech will be able to do some damage against infantry. That charge bonus of 75 is quite good. Like, just you could charge that necrotech all game long, use your 2 heals on your tomb scorpions or your Shopti or your Chosen of the Gods, whichever seems to work best or be most important. And I think this is some type of army that you're going to see. Now, I did want to do a quick example of why I don't think the Tomb King's infantry, why I don't think you're going to see any of, let me see, I'll put this guy out here. Alright, why I don't think you're going to see any Neharkara warriors. And what we'll do is just grab 2 of these guys, and we'll grab 2 dwarf warriors. The dwarf warriors are only 450 each. The Neharkara warriors are 575, 125 extra each. So we'll just get into a quick battle and go take a look. And this might take a little longer for this first battle, but I'm doing this with a definite reason, and you'll see that in the very next battle. So let me put him here. Group. Okay. Just make sure we get those guys going. speed things up. The reason I want kind of an open field and will look like kind of make it run this way is, okay, you gotta come back. Okay, dude, get in here. This is not going to quite go off perfectly, but good enough. We'll really see this. This is just a straight up fight. I've run this a bunch of times. You know, your dwarf warriors they're going to win every time. I don't know if it'll be, you know, 20 out of 20. It might be 19 out of 20 or 9 out of 10. But it's a pretty reliable victory for your dwarf warriors against the Nekara warriors. In general, you can see we're already definitely winning that. We're losing over here because the lords got involved because reasons, and I'll just try not to kill their lord so we can just see this battle here resolve. You can see it's not like we have a massive amount left. Go back here. Okay, their lord came in for a second, but we're definitely winning that. Now, you might say, and when you see this, and that's not going to quite work out, but we would win that. Okay, you might say when you see this that, you know, the Tomb King's mechanic is a really important element of this. They can get potentially 4 heals in there. So what we'll do is we'll just load these guys up. I don't know if I have enough gold to do this. Tomb Kings. It'll be close, just to make sure their mechanic goes off there 4 times. There we go. So we got an even number of units, so let's just start the battle. And this way, you can see with their full mechanic in play, the dwarf warriors are just, again, a straight up. Where's their lord there? Okay, go here.
Dwarf warriors.
Okay, group. Okay, we'll get him over here. So we'll just make sure you'll see that their heals go off correctly. This is going to be a bit of a blob in the center. It's not going to quite work out right, but good enough is what I say here. And I'm just going to stick Belagar here, and we'll make sure all this goes off properly. So what you're going to see, where is their lord? I don't even know. So make sure everyone's fighting. What you will see is there's their first heal. So that's the first level of their mechanic. And where are you? Okay, that's their first level of mechanic. You'll see their heal is going to go off again shortly. There it is. That's the second level of their mechanic. Where are you? Okay, we'll get you here. And we'll see the third level of their mechanic go off here pretty shortly. Still looking. Oh, there's their lord. I'm just going to go fight him with Belagar here just for fun. Should see their third level of mechanic. There it is, level 3. And so we have some of our own guys routing right here, which is fine. Just keep bringing these guys back. And I don't know if they have their summon kicking around here or not. We get these guys over here. Whoops, the enemy lord is dead. That's not great. Oops, sorry about that. Just get you over here. So basically what I just want to show is that even with the mechanic in play, the dwarf warriors will generally win this engagement. taking a little longer than I'd hoped, but c'est la vie. We got everyone fighting. And you can see the balance of power is gone there. So we'll end that battle. And, we took a lot fewer than they did in general. And that's even with them going through and getting all of their mechanic. And, I don't know if they caused fear and terror. I accidentally killed their lord. But it wouldn't have made a difference. We still would have won that. Even with them making use of their mechanics. So, for that reason, and it's the same with the Longbeards. If we were going to look at the Longbeards here versus the Tomb Guard, if we just look at the stat differences, the Longbeards just have 5 total stat points on the melee attack and melee defense and much better armor. So it's they just win straight up in the same way, and they only cost 650 gold. So I find it's going to be unlikely that you're going to see a lot of Tomb Guard or a lot of Nehakar warriors, who you may see in some other matchups. But I just don't know. I think they're a little weak. You're probably going to see them buffed up a little bit in a further patch, and I think you're going to see a lot of Skeleton warriors and the Ushapti. Because their core infantry, like these Tomb Guard, are in their stat sweet spot. 750 gold. They should have a really good stats. They do have silver shields, but their armor is just really low. Their weapon strength is decent, but what they need is for these Ushapti to have some better stats for one, and then maybe an armor piercing version. Same with the Nehakar warriors. They're a damage dealer, but they only do 7 armor piercing, so they need more weapon strength maybe. I don't know. But they're only 575. But if you compare them, just out of curiosity, to, say, another damage dealer, let me see, greenskins. So if we get a greenskin and we go to a Savage Orcs, so when we look at a Savage Orc who is 550, we'll see, well, I guess they're pretty close. Well, maybe. I don't know. Savage Orcs have more health. Well, maybe that's right. I don't know. They just seem weak to me for some reason. So maybe I'm just not seeing it where they're going to be good or who they're going to be good against. But I have a feeling these Tomb Guards and Nehakar warriors will be more of a well, maybe they'd be more of a niche pick, or we'll see how they play out. But anyways, just wanted to make again a quick essential units primer video. I will do proper testing with the Tomb Kings to really try and work out which units are going to pull even more value. We know our basic infantry are going to be good, but our miners with blasting charge are going to be in there. And what's kind of weird is actually Tomb Kings don't have a lot of units that are prone to fire damage, which is weird because they're like sort of the dry undead instead of the wet undead is how I think about it, I guess. But we'll see which units tend to really pull value. I really do want to look at these gyrocopters with brimstone guns because they do have flaming attacks, and the one thing that is the one units that are prone to fire damage are like High Queen Khalida, fire weakness. Same with Archon the Black, fire weakness. So I don't know if you could get a gyro to survive with the long-range missile units that the Tomb Kings have and the armor sundering missile units, but anyways, I will do some testing. I'll take a look at which lords tend to excel, and heroes and infantry and everything else, but I want to make sure I complete my Lizardmen essential units first before moving on to the Tomb Kings. I thought I would just give my thoughts here real quick, and with that, hopefully you found it interesting, and Love to hear what anyone has to say about their thoughts on Tomb Kings, especially if you've played them in multiplayer, like in a quick battle. I really like to hear what units you're seeing in the multiplayer battles, what units you're using, and what units you're finding tend to be more effective, or any play styles or anything like that. I'd love to hear anyone who is seeing the Tomb Kings in multiplayer right now in quick battles, and what your thoughts are, and even if you haven't seen them yet, what your general thoughts are from the other things you've seen. So please put some comments down below on your thoughts on the Tomb King units, on what units you think you're going to see a lot. Do you think the units that I put here for test army, are these the ones you're going to see? Or do you think it's going to be, not Tomb Scorpions and something else, or they're going to have some other type of focus? I'd really like to hear your thoughts, and I look forward to it. So with that said, we'll end the episode, and I'll see you soon.